Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Elizabeth. I normally make mom and cooking videos, so if you enjoy that kind of content, make sure you subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Today I'm exactly 27 weeks pregnant, so in this video I'll be talking about what's been going on in this past week pregnancy related, including my symptoms and my latest prenatal appointment. Right now my baby is about the size of an acorn squash, probably about that big. She weighs almost 2 pounds, which to me is just pretty crazy because it doesn't seem like very long ago that she wasn't even 1 full pound. So there's really a lot of growth starting to go on, and the baby will start to gain fat soon to get ready for the outside world. As far as my weight gain, I've gained about 1 more pound this week, so right on track. That makes it so I've gained about 16 pounds altogether during this pregnancy, which is right in the range of where I should be. Pre-pregnancy, I was about 127, and now I'm about 143. My goal is to be around 155 to 160 on delivery. I know with Dominic, I was a little bit over 170. With Dominic, I lost 10 pounds right away when he was born just from him. He was 7 pounds 4 ounces, I think. 7 pounds 4 ounces. And then from the placenta and the extra amniotic fluid, all that fun stuff. But with my body, when I'm over 150 pounds, which I was for probably a couple months after Dominic, my knees start to hurt. So my goal is to be above 150 for as little amount of time as possible. So if I can stay around or below 160, I know I'll get right back to below 150 when the baby's born. If I can stay around or below 160, then I know as soon as baby's born, I should drop below 150. So hopefully I won't have to worry about my knees hurting, or if they do, for very long. I'm not going to try losing weight at all, or even thinking about that for the first few months. With Dominic, I naturally lost a few pounds, just kind of my body going back a little bit to where it likes to be. Then I think around 4 or 5 months, I wasn't naturally losing anymore, so I did have to actively start to try. I would like to do a video about how I lost the rest of the baby weight and got back to where I wanted to be in a future video. I love talking about nutrition and exercise and general well-being. Really the only symptom that I've noticed in this past week is that actually for about 10 years, I've had a bit of like either eczema or dermatitis above my left eyelid. It's only on my left eye, never on my right, but it gets red and flaky and usually doesn't last more than a day or two, and then I'm fine for a few weeks or a few months, then I might get another little bit of a flare-up. But the past few weeks, it's gotten worse than normal. In this past week, it hasn't gone away. I did have some eczema like lotion lying around. It doesn't have steroids or anything. It's natural. The main ingredient is colloidal oatmeal, which isn't a steroid, and it's supposed to help soothe the area. So I've been using that. It seems to be helping. I was interested in if there was anything that was causing it, and it sounds like it's probably just one of those things that pregnancy exacerbated. I don't wear makeup very often, so I know it's not triggered by that. Obviously it could be stress, just because, you know, this year in general has been stressful for everyone. 2020 has definitely been a stressful year, I would say, for most, if not everyone in the world. I don't remember having it flare up with Dominic, but it might have been just one of those things that I didn't really think about at the time. So that's kind of a cool thing about documenting this on video. Now I'll be able to look back and know these things for sure. Another thing that can trigger is allergies, which I always have allergies. So I don't think that necessarily made it better or worse. It's just a mild annoyance. It's not like a major thing, so I'm not super worried about it. If it does get worse, I can talk to a doctor about it, but I'm not particularly worried about it right now. As far as my meal prep, I worked really hard on that last week and finished it up. I ended up making 6 freezer meals of 4 different varieties, and 4 of them are in big 9x13 pans. That'll be nice when I have a family member over helping me out, taking care of Dominic and our new baby. I could just pop one of those in the oven to have for all of us for dinner. And then I have 2 smaller ones, so that'll be better for when it's just my husband and me and Dom. We picked up a few paint samples yesterday, and if any of you are looking for a fun toddler activity that is relatively low risk as far as pandemic-wise and can be totally free, I recommend taking them to a hardware store. We took Dominic with us to Lowe's, let him run around wherever he wanted, and there weren't very many people there at all, so pretty low exposure. They had a Christmas tree area set up, and he loved running around in there and just touching all of the little lights on the trees. And of course, we were right next to him the whole time. It's not like he was just running loose around the whole store, but we were just following behind him, making sure he didn't get into trouble. And he just walked up and down a bunch of aisles and would occasionally touch something, but he's really good about not grabbing things if I tell him not to, and not doing anything destructive. So it ended up being a good place for him to get some energy out. Then we picked up the paint samples. I think we have it narrowed down to 2. They're almost exactly the same, but we're gonna go with a light green. I think we're just going to do one color for the whole room. That'll be easier to paint. And I'm not gonna be doing any painting because of the fumes, so it'll be my husband and maybe my dad will help out. They're the 2 that painted Dominic's room, and they did a really great job. I had a prenatal appointment last week. We're down to every 2 weeks for our prenatal appointments, which you know you're getting close when you go down to your appointments every 2 weeks. So I talked to my midwife a little bit about what labor and delivery might look like. The hospital where I'm delivering was actually completely remodeled just within actually a couple months of when Dominic was born. But the negative part of that is everything is very different as far as getting in. And because of COVID, they're not doing hospital tours right now. But my midwife assured me once I get closer to delivery, she'll give detailed instructions and print it out on a paper for me, so we shouldn't have any issues getting to where we need to go. The other good thing about the remodels, they made the rooms a bit nicer, and they only had 2 tub rooms when I delivered. They actually had one that was like a kind of holistic room with a nice big tub built in, and then the other one, it was just a normal hospital room that had a big tub kind of thrown in. That's where I delivered Dominic because the other one was already taken up by someone, but I ended up delivering him about 40 minutes after I got into the room, and he was having heart decelerations, so between that and the timing, we didn't have time to fill up the tub, and we couldn't even think about it because we were having to have continuous monitoring on him at that point, so I wouldn't have even been able to get in the tub because of either of those reasons. They have 4 tub rooms now that are supposed to be a bit nicer, so hopefully with this baby I'll be able to get one of those tub rooms. I plan on getting to the hospital earlier in my labor, so hopefully I will be able to labor in the tub. We're not supposed to actually deliver in the tub, but we would be allowed to labor in there, so I'm hoping that that's something that I'll get to do in this birth. Another big thing I talked to my midwife about at this appointment was trying to have a better birth. I'll do a video sometime about my birth story, so I'll get into this a bit more. He wasn't tolerating my contractions in labor very well when we got to like the end pushing stage, so they ended up having to use a vacuum, and I had a pretty big tear. I wasn't able to even have a midwife do the delivery. We had to have an OB came in, so I ended up having a really bad tear. It was a 3rd degree. The OB said she actually qualified it as a 3.75. And since I didn't have an epidural, I actually had to go to the operating room to get a spinal and to get stitches. So I had to spend about an hour and a half away from Dominic after he was born. I did get to have skin to skin with him immediately after for about a half hour, but it sucked not being able to spend all of that brand new newborn time with him. So of course I want to reduce the risk of that happening again. So I talked about it to my midwife and about what happened, and she told me that of course not 100%, but most of the time that the second time the baby comes out much easier, and there's a lot less likely chance of having a severe tear your second time around. So that made me feel a bit better. She also said that every baby handles labor differently. Even if I have a similar fast labor, my baby might be able to just handle it better. The next big thing in my pregnancy is testing for gestational diabetes. I'm opting out of the glucola drink because it's 50 grams of sugar and there's usually food dye in it, high fructose corn syrup. I generally try to stay away from that kind of thing. My care providers allow an alternative of getting a blood sugar monitoring system. You have to do finger pricks and write down your blood sugar levels 4 times a day, so it's gonna be fasting, and then an hour after each meal. So I started that today actually, and then at my next appointment I'll take the results and they'll be able to tell me whether or not I have gestational diabetes. I didn't with Dominic, and I don't have an immediate family member that has diabetes, and I've always been in the healthy weight range my whole life, so I'm in a pretty low risk group for it. But regardless of that, anyone can get gestational diabetes. It's just one of those things that can happen, so I definitely recommend everyone doing some kind of test for it. If you have undiagnosed gestational diabetes, there is a higher risk to the baby, but that's definitely something to talk to your care provider about. That's about everything that's been going on in my pregnancy this week, so I'll show you guys my bump now. You can see my stretch marks from my pregnancy with Dominic. Don't have any new ones yet, but plenty of old ones. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.